Good afternoon, class. Today we're going to look at chapters 14 through 16 of Black House. So please turn to chapter 14 in your book. First thing we're going to look at is on page 279, so please turn there first. And this looks at how Judy's delusions, this is the scene where Jack and Fred go to meet Judy in the mental hospital wing. And by talking to her, we understand that her delusions match Jack's past experiences, going to the territories, the dimension he visits as a child. So there are some more connections between the quest and the dimensional travel that Jack did as a boy with where Judy's visions are taking her now. So it shows there's a larger connection between her own mental instability and trauma from these visions and what he's gone through. And that she's somehow connected to this larger puzzle, what's going on in the town. So it really starts to draw all these pieces together of these strange occurrences that are happening at the same time as the crime. It goes on to page 282. This shows that in Jack, he sees in Judy an internal weariness and radiance. This mix of this kind of burden she carries from worry over her son and also what's happened to her. And also this kind of beauty in her as well. So it shows he sees her for more than what she is. The idea that people are more than they appear, and they're more complicated than that. That's what we get a sense of here as well. Then it goes on page 283. One of the things that Judy tries to tell him is you have to keep going out to give up when lost. This is an important point, this larger theme she references here of fighting against the odds and not giving up. A key part of any kind of success is not to stop trying. And that's one thing she kind of highlights here as well as she tries to convince Jack of before he leaves the hospital. Then it goes to page 286. And this is also the key part of their meeting, where Judy senses that Jack has gone to the territories before. And so it shows this idea that she believes it's more than just dreams, an actual place she goes to and can access. And this explains why she was clawing the walls, believing she could enter the world, and before Fred found her. And also this idea that she knows this is true. And it goes on for this idea about, on page 287, careful, sweetie. Careful. It goes on page 287. This shows this idea that Jack is striving to find an answer. The theme of the quest story. The quest theme is seen in the text. He's trying to find answers to himself, how his past still connects to the present, mystery he's trying to solve, and also these memories then of this queen he saw dying as a boy in the other world. So it ties back to some of the traumatic memories of dealing with loss he's repressed, but not coming back up again as part of him coming to terms with his past that Judy reminds him of. And part of this idea that he has to deal with loss and trying to find a sense of direction in his life. That's part of what he's doing on this case. Alright, then that ends chapter 14, goes into part 3, Ninth Plutonian Shore, in chapter 15. Careful, sweetie. This is on page 296. And this is the scene after when Dale's at home and he can't find where his son is outside playing and fears for a moment he's somehow gone missing too. So it kind of further shows that idea that despite some characters believing that there won't be victims, they're not as impervious as they thought. They too, like anyone in the community, can be victim of violent crime. There's one thing that this scene really kind of further reiterates and points out, that no one's safe from this. And there's an idea that we also see here as well with that Dale has to face when he fears his own son will be taken. And further connects him personally to this crime, and also just part of his motivation ties into him being a father himself of a boy the same age as the victims. It goes on page 299, and it goes into the hotel. And really kind of the way it's described really highlights this is a place of decay, falling apart. People there are usually kind of dead end in their lives in a way. It's really kind of highlights in various ways the sensory details how this place represents a place of decay and death and of destruction. So it makes sense that it becomes an appropriate scene of horror and tie in this story, kind of foreshadows what's to come, and it's going to tie into that somehow in these scenes. It goes on page 300. Shows Bernie has teleported himself to the hotel searching for something. We're not sure what yet. But it shows how he'll tie and connect to this in some way. It goes on page 302. And this shows some of the residents in the hotel. One of them, Andrew, discovers Bernie wandering the halls, checking the room, seeing he's looking to steal something. And thinks even though he goes in this guy Potter's room, he doesn't like him, he still wants to do the right thing and protect his home. So it kind of shows this larger idea of, again, characters picking the greater good of the community over their selfish needs, even for people they don't like or respect. And as we see here with Andrew wanting to confront and find out what Bernie is doing in this other guy Potter's room. Eventually goes in there, and on page 305 he finds in the closet various photographs and evidence of the crimes. And this further disturbs him and terrifies Andrew. And that's exactly what Bernie wanted. He wanted to plant the evidence to frame Potter for these crimes and throw off the police. As it further shows Bernie preparing to defend himself, and despite his arrogance and leaving clues on purpose drawing attention, he's still trying to protect himself at the same time, as more characters try and gather to find a way to stop him. It goes into page 307. And this further shows, again, how when Bernie gets back, he further pretends and hides behind the sense of being not in control of himself. And he shows then in his cruel remarks to the people around him after when they're talking to him that he really is more aware than he lets on. So it shows a contrast between times beneath the mask coming out to terrify or to threaten people. And also shows that's why he does what he does, or it shows more about his character. Then we also get more about why he chose Potter, because he had gotten revenge for a land deal he had been cheated out of years earlier in Chicago in the 70s. So it kind of further highlights Burnside's actions are out of revenge, not only to protect himself and his crimes, but also personal revenge from 30-some years earlier against Potter. Careful, sweetie. And he goes into page 308. And it shows more of Burnside trying to talk to this creature Gorg again, and tying these supernatural beings that he's somehow in contact with, or has allegiance with. This further ties and supports the idea that there's more going on to the story than we realize, and more to his character than we know so far. And it goes in the chapter, it shows that Gorg's character, we learned, is some kind of talking raven, and tries to imply or show the fears of the people of who he is. That's when he goes to visit Tansy, who's Irma Furnow's mother. And we find that Irma was one of the victims that was killed earlier and found in Ed's Eat, the diner. And now she's like driven by her trauma and also by drug addiction, is trying to drown out her sorrows. And Gorg tries to get into her mind to use her as well for some larger plan that he's aligned with Burnside. So it's to show more of the pieces of the puzzle fitting together as we see more of the plan develop as each side tries to outdo or get ahead of the other. Then we go to chapter 16. And this shows more that Gorg is some kind of demonic spirit creature, and he uses Bernie or works with Bernie in order to commit his crimes. We're not sure what his part in this is and why. We know he's aligned with him. And this ties in further clues earlier when he was summoning him and talking to Lumineers. Then it goes on further to page 318. And it goes into Dale's character. He argues he wants Doc to report a suspect is at a bar so they can catch him. So it shows more about how Dale's willing to break the law if he can find a way then to get evidence and stop someone. In this case, he intentionally has one of the biker gang help him by going to the bar, trying to ID the possible suspects. They have a reason to go there. So it shows him trying to use the law and to justify his actions and his suspicions by trying to find a legal way to do it. So it shows Dale's increasingly, as time goes on, willing to break the law or bend the law in order to stop these crimes. And it goes on to page 322. And this shows more about Jack's character, that has learned more about the case. He confides that Henry that he thinks Potter was set up. The guy in the robe that was seen there was actually the real fisherman. So it shows furthermore about Jack and Henry figuring out the real details of what's going on. And despite Burnside's efforts, his plan of covering this up isn't fooling everybody. And then it further shows that Jack thinks about or hears a song referencing back to his mother on page 323, and he openly cries on the way home. So it further really shows that even all these years later, how deeply the sorrow Jack feels for those that are lost still resonates with him. And this is a theme that ties back to the memories of the dead queen he saw in Territories, and also his dead mother, who he's mentioned had passed away years before. Then further goes on page 323, Tansey's character, after being influenced by Gorg, is now trying to summon a mob to help him go get revenge and go find this guy Potter and create a vigilante mob to go and kill him. And further goes on page 328. And this shows more about how we see Beezer's sorrow. And it's one thing to remember, that Beezer, the leader of the biker gang, his daughter was Irma, the last victim. So it shows he has a personal stake in this, and one reason why he wants to stop these crimes. And when he confronts Potter and asks if he killed his daughter, Potter sincerely tells him he didn't. And he seems to believe him and almost see a genuine pain in Potter for being blamed for this, and that he's a broken man himself for different reasons. It's really kind of highlights this idea that Beezer, like Jack, is starting to suspect this is a setup, and that the mob pressure that Gorg set up isn't working. Yeah. And it goes on to page 330, 331. This starts to show more of the trust between... Oh, 1 second. Right, on page 331, we get to see more about Dale and Jack's friendship and partnership growing stronger. This is when Jack confides into Dale, and he helps him think about why Potter was framed, likely for revenge. So it shows both Jack and Dale's investigative skills, and also how much they trust each other. This is enough for Dale to believe that Jack's right and give him time to question Potter to find out the truth of why he was targeted. And because we know that, they can find out who would want revenge and get closer to finding the identity of Burnside. And it goes on page 333. It shows Speedy, one of the old friend of Jack's who knew from when he was a boy, and Territories calls to get them help and information. And he's the one who warns them about the mob coming to kill Potter, and also they have to stop as well. And so it kind of further shows about how Speedy's character comes from the past to actually further help his friend. And further ties this idea there's other parts involved here that are trying to then help guide or influence Jack's investigation. It goes on page 335. And this shows on page 335 how Tansey's character, who's largely as an outsider in town, gains more strength and status through leading the mob and being seen as a victim than trying to avenge herself. So further shows in why she buys into or is tempted so much by Gorg's influence as well. This idea that vigilantism gives people a sense of power, especially when they're in the lower rungs of the social ladder. It goes on page 337. It shows how Jack uses one of the magic items or flowers given to him by Speedy, left behind, to help then counter Gorg's spell over Tansey. So further shows direct influence of magic or supernatural in the story, how Jack draws from his trust from his old ally he knew from his childhood, and also then the existence of both good and dark magic that one can conflict with the other. And so it further shows his larger forces influence the investigation, growing more than just to human actions, but their forces at work involving the dimensions of the creatures as well. It goes on page 338 and 339. And this shows more of Jack's compassion for Tansey's character, how he swears to find the real killer and seek justice for her dead daughter. And really kind of shows more of Jack's ability then to gain trust of the people, and also his true nature in believing what he does and helping others. And just on page 339, it shows we get a return of Green's character, the immoral journalist who tries to rally and call up the mob to further try and fight against the fishermen. And it really kind of shows how he becomes a direct player and trying to create further his own story he was there to cover. And so it further shows why he also is a threat in himself. He does this more for his personal gain than any kind of sense of the truth or justice that he argues he's trying to report on. And he goes on page 340 and 341. It shows Arnie's character knocks Green unconscious. And this further shows he tries to redeem himself from letting the word out earlier about where Irma Furnow's body was that totally damaged the investigation, caused the chaos out of the abandoned restaurant several chapters ago. So we see even characters who are flawed seeking can gain some redemption and still act heroically. This also further shows Beezer gaining more trust with Jack since he's convinced by him that there's a frame in the larger actions at work. So it shows more about other characters gradually aligning with Jack in this chapter. Speedy, Beezer, Dale, to help work together, and also Henry as well, to try and stop what's going on. And lastly, page 341, Dale shows a copy of the Fisherman Call to Jack to help in the investigation. Jack plans to talk to Potter to figure out who framed him. So he kind of further sets up what's to come in the next chapters and show, while there is supernatural work here at play, still very much police procedural actions are being taken as well. It makes the supernatural logic and reasoning and instincts as investigators help these characters try and solve the mystery. Alright, that ends chapter 16. And now let's go on to... Alright, that concludes this section. Alright, so next section will cover the last video lecture for the book. We have left is chapter 17 through 20, which I'll have posted in next week's module. Alright, have a good day. Any questions you have, of course, as always, please send some through the inbox, Tool, and Canvas. Bye.